Welcome to The Explainer. Recently, a gentleman named Terrence Hughes posed a pretty profound challenge. He asks, look into the mirror, tell me what you see. And today, we're going to take that exact question and point it directly at the most defining technology of our era. Because right now, there's this incredibly comforting myth we all like to tell ourselves about artificial intelligence. We really like to pretend that it's this unpredictable alien mind that just touched down from another planet, right? A strange, unknowable entity that doesn't play by our rules. But we need to ask ourselves a much harder question. Is it actually an alien, or is it just a mirror we built?
Think about the words we naturally reach for when this technology makes a mistake. We call these failures hallucinations. It's a deeply human, deeply psychological term. We use it as if the machine is literally sitting there, dreaming up things that just aren't there in the digital ether.
And what about when it behaves in a way we didn't expect? We claim the AI is going rogue. We use these clever little linguistic tricks to imply that the software has somehow slipped its leash and is acting on its own free will. It frames the technology as something that is happening to us, completely outside of our control.
Okay, let's dive into this. We intentionally used language that keeps AI at arm's length. But here's the thing. This whole alien mind story completely falls apart the second you look at the actual history of how artificial intelligence was built. It didn't just fall from the sky.
AI wasn't born in some quiet, dusty philosophy seminar. It was born in the frantic, life-or-death urgency of a war room. Back in the 1940s, Alan Turing is building machines to break Enigma codes simply because human minds just aren't fast enough. At the exact same time, Norbert Wiener is formalizing cybernetics so anti-aircraft guns can predict enemy flight paths. Long before the term artificial intelligence was even coined by Dartmouth researchers in 1956, intelligence was already being weaponized. It was literally always about control.
And those 1956 pioneers, they built a machine that basically just reflected their own narrow, mid-century academic beliefs about what intelligence actually is. To them, thinking meant formal logic, playing chess, and theorem proving. Why? Well, because that's what they did for a living. They entirely failed to encode basic human intuition, things like a 5-year-old intuitively catching a ball or understanding a joke. And when the machine couldn't do those things, they blamed the machine, completely missing the fact that it was just reflecting their own limited assumptions right back at them.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it shows where modern AI actually got its data. We usually flatten the internet and the web, treating them as the exact same thing, but they are fundamentally different. The internet is a military creation, heavily funded to survive Cold War attacks. But the web? Tim Berners-Lee built that at CERN as a deliberate, open commons so scientists could freely share information. It was intentionally put into the public domain. It wasn't built for massive corporations. It was built from the ground up to be a shared, open space.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. Whenever something is truly open, someone, eventually, finds a way to fence it off. Take the music industry. They went from selling you the physical ownership of a CD to using the sheer panic over piracy, like Napster, to completely rewrite the rules. They shifted us entirely to renting access via streaming platforms. They took a space where artists and fans interacted directly, threw a fence around it, and now they just extract rent at the toll booth.
Which brings us right back to the open web. For decades, AI research was totally stuck. It lacked computing power, and crucially, it lacked data. But the open web quietly solved their data shortage, because we all built an unpaid human archive. Your blogs, Wikipedia, decades of hard-hitting journalism, your personal photos uploaded just to share a memory with your family. Nobody writing a forum post in 1998 thought they were training a massive neural network. We created this massive commons, and it just sat there, freely available, until deep learning became powerful enough to scoop it all up and extract it at scale.
Scraping this huge public record is exactly like historical patent law. Think about it. A specific gene sits freely inside human cells for millennia, or a traditional plant is used safely by indigenous cultures for generations, until a corporation isolates it in a lab, slaps a patent on it, and suddenly calls it their invention. The object itself changes, but the extractive logic remains identical. You fence off the commons, and you monetize it.
But it actually gets much darker than that, and a lot more physical. Let's slow down for a second and look at something called Project Panama. This was a shocking, highly secretive internal effort run by a major AI company. They didn't just scrape the digital web. No, they went out and bought up millions of physical printed books for the sole purpose of digitizing them.
They literally used guillotines. Machinery would cut the pages straight from the binding, the contents were rapidly digitized, and what remained was simply thrown in the trash. They pulped the books. And the real tragedy here isn't the mass-market paperbacks, it's the rare, out-of-print editions. Once they go through that cutter to feed the AI, they are gone forever.
Now, you might be wondering, why on earth destroy them? Was it a glitch in the system? Absolutely not. Destroying the book was a deliberate, calculated legal strategy. By destroying the physical copy the exact moment it was scanned, the company argued they maintained a strict one-for-one equivalence. One copy bought, one copy created digitally, nothing extra floating around in circulation. The literal destruction of physical human history was the legal loophole used to defend their data extraction.
So, the crucial point is that while this extraction is incredibly lucrative, it carries massive liabilities. In a related part of that same legal battle, some books weren't even bought and pulped, they were just pulled straight from pirate archives online. That resulted in a staggering $1.5 billion settlement paid out to authors whose life's work was taken without any consent whatsoever.
Whether it's fencing off the open digital web or physically unbinding printed books, we're really looking at the exact same human impulse. Fencing what is open and destroying what is fenced aren't contradictory actions at all. They are both driven by the overwhelming desire to extract value the moment it's realized. In this system, ownership isn't some permanent moral stance. It is literally just a temporary position taken by whoever happens to hold the ledger.
And this brings us to the ultimate truth of this technology. When you sit down and talk to a large language model, you are absolutely not talking to an alien mind. You are talking to a very high-resolution compression of everyone. It folds together our greatest literature, our totally unexamined biases, our most generous open-source code, and our most ruthless corporate extraction. It is a mirror, reflecting our massive scraped digital footprint right back at us.
So when an AI generates something biased or something that treats a human being merely as a means to an end, it is for sure not going rogue. The machine didn't invent callousness, it learned it from us, at scale because we wrote it down. If a system built from human output reflects a willingness to exploit and extract, it's working exactly as intended. It's doing exactly what a mirror does.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because we have to separate two very important things to actually see the optimistic path forward here. On one hand, yes, we have the compromised extractive origins of AI, scraping without consent and pulping books. We absolutely cannot ignore that. But on the other hand, we have the genuine capability of the tool today, the amazing ability to take properly held source material and rework it into something totally new. Those are two very different ledgers.
Because when you point this powerful mirror at something honest, the results are incredible. Think of a songwriter feeding their own original recording into a tool to find brand new melodic variations, or a dev team analyzing their own codebase, or researchers generating massive breakthroughs from data where everyone actually consented. Using AI on your own hard-won, first-generation work creates something legitimately yours, even if it doesn't erase the historical debt of how the tool was originally built.
Terrence Hughes asks, "Look into the mirror, tell me what you see." Well, we didn't build something artificial. We built a mirror that reflects human nature with terrifying precision. It shows us our oldest behaviors, both our endless desire to extract and our incredible, boundless capacity to create. The technology doesn't choose between the two. We do. So the question I want to leave you with today is this. Now that you hold this mirror in your hands, will you use it to extract from others, or will you point it at something honest? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.